So welcome and thank you for taking the time to join us today. This is a funding and information clinic for the Circus Project Award for 2026 and for the Street Performance and Spectacle Project Award for 2026. If you've been at any of my clinics before, I usually start with just an overview of the Arts Council. So apologies if you're well familiar with this, but for any new applicants, it can be useful to understand how the organisation is structured. So the Arts Council is a voluntary body of 12 members and a chair. That's the council. They're kind of the board of directors of the organisation. They're appointed by the Minister for Tourism. Actually, this department name has changed recently, but it's the Minister for Culture, Communications and Sport. The ongoing work of the Arts Council is delivered by the executive, which is the staff, which includes a director and staff across multiple art form specific and operation teams. We also have advisors and assessors who are external contractors who work with us, who provide additional expertise, strategic advice and assessment services. And they add diverse voices, so it's not always a single individual writing assessments on applications, for example. And you can learn more about the organisation and that background and all that stuff on our website. In terms of art form teams, so we are the Circus Street Performance and Spectacle team. There are a number of other art form teams around the organisation. Majority of these will be running project awards as well and may be more suitable to your work. If, for example, your focus is on children and young people's arts, perhaps it may be more suitable for you to have a look at the Children and Young People's Arts Project Award guidelines or to get in touch with their team. Also, just to highlight some changes, we've had a recent additions, the Irish Language Arts team, and I think they're running an Irish Language Theatre Project Award this round. We also have the newly minted Multidisciplinary Arts team, and they have just published a policy statement. So if you consider your work to be in the area of interdisciplinary and multidisciplinary arts, you might want to check out what's happening over there in that team. And their policy statement just sets out kind of a foundation for the work that they're doing at present, and they're kicking off a bigger policy consultation so that they'll be doing research and engagements and consultations with the sector, just to let you know about that. Also, arts participation has been renamed to participatory arts, participatory arts, and they'll also soon be publishing a policy statement and kicking off much larger piece of policy work. So just to give you some heads up on those. As I said, our team is the Circus Street Performance and Spectacle team. We have our officer, Ciara Coyne, on the call, who may have been emailing you and back and forth around this clinic. I'm the part-time head of team here. We have Adam O'Keefe is on the call as well, who is our external advisor. You may know Adam, he often goes out to see work and attend events in the sector. He's also available for more informal conversations about your work and applications. Okay, great. So what we do in the Arts Council, we are tasked via the Arts Act with stimulating public interest in the arts, promoting knowledge, appreciation and practice of the arts, assisting in improving standards in the arts, and advising the minister and other public bodies on the arts. And it's good to understand these things because this is what leads to the activities that we take in the organisation, the policies that are developed across the organisation, and then specifically in the art form. It's all driven by these things. And then the guidelines, which we're covering today, all trickle down from that. So there's a reason to the madness, I guess. Again, we do funding, we provide advice, we do research and advocate for the sector, and we promote the arts through various different initiatives and programs and partnerships that we have. In terms of corporate strategy, we're currently working under the Making Great Art Work 10-year strategy, which was due to finish in 2025, but will be extended now to 2026 as we're undergoing new strategy development work for the next 10 years. Key pillars of the Making Great Art Work strategy were the artist and public engagement and giving equal priority to those. So supporting artists through programs like Agility and the Bursary Award, and then focusing on public engagement and bringing high quality arts experiences to the public, which would be the main focus of this project award, which we're looking at today. You can find more information or read about the background of these documents and more information on what it is they aim to achieve on our website, of course. We then have these cross organization strategies and policies, such as paying the artist, where we prioritize artists receiving living wage and fair remuneration for their work, as well as equality, human rights, and diversity policy, where we have an aligned implementation plan with a series of actions that we're taking to try and improve diversity within the arts, different bodies on stage, and that all voices are represented. And we also have our place, space, and people policy, which is particularly important from a street performance and spectacle perspective. And this outlines, priorities around having spatial spread of our investment so that communities all across the country are having opportunities to engage in high quality arts experiences. So these are all organizational policies and approaches that lead to the guidelines that we're going to be looking at and the priorities that we have when we're assessing your applications. So to help give you a bit of context and to understand the language around that. Then that comes down to our art form policies. So we published in 2024 the Arts Council's first ever street performance and spectacle solo policy. It was previously combined with Circus in a short policy. We're in the very final stages of publishing our Circus policy. We hope to have that up online soon, and to keep an eye on our socials and communications from our team, as we'll probably be doing webinars and various different activities around that. But you can see our street performance and spectacle policy on the website, on the street performance and spectacle page. And if you're applying into this program, I highly recommend you review the document. There's some beautiful imagery and examples of really high quality work in Ireland in this area. And it also outlines our priorities around that art form. And the Circus one will be available soon, but unfortunately probably not before the closing date for this program. But there is some imagery and information on our Circus page on the website if you want to have a look at that as well, just to inform yourself. Okay, so before we dive into the guidelines, I just want to make sure that you're aware of the various different help and support that is available for you. We know that these are very text heavy, right? In our sector, we've a very high representation of neurodiversity. And we recognize that a lot of our information is text heavy. It's full of jargon because it's all related to these policies and these government mandates that we have. So we know it's not easy language to work with, but we do have supports in place, and we have a lot of staff in the organization who really do want to help you write the best application you can and make the processes smooth and seamless for you as possible. So starting with, we've a new website recently launched. And if you go to the funding page, so simply go Arts Council and then click on funding. And you scroll down to the bottom. You have to scroll down to find it. Just scroll down and there's an introductory video for you about how the processes work. And there's a variety of different support material for you there as well. If you have questions about using the online services website, the OLS, which is the portal where you actually submit your application, there is guidance for applicants online. And you can also bring technical questions to the online services team or call the Arts Council should you need to. There's also video guides on making applications on YouTube. So you can go and please look at these if you're a first-time applicant so that you're fully prepared when you go to actually complete the application process. We currently have a very outdated application portal. We're in the process of trying to improve that. You may be aware of some stories in the media recently around a failed project related to that. And unfortunately that we're still without a functioning system while all of that is still going on. So we know it's difficult to use and we know there's challenges that you have. So we do have supports in place for that. We highly recommend getting familiar with the process, getting familiar with the system early in your application journey, so that you have plenty of time to reach out for support if you need it. When it comes to the final week or the final couple of days before the deadline, it's very, very difficult to provide support for all of the people who need it because all the requests are coming in at the last minute. So we would just recommend that you start exploring that now, even before you start to write some of the text or gather supporting material. We do have a disability access support function as well, and this includes people who have neurodiversity. So if you have challenges with dyslexia, dyscalculia, attention deficit disorder, or you need an additional help with your applications, that is available for you here. If you struggle with time, task management, and feel a sense of overwhelm, all of that stuff, this support is there for you. Again, we would ask you to contact the team as early as possible before the deadline, because they do want to help you and they have capacity to help you, but they need that time to work with you and to help you with the various deadlines. And you can contact them by phone or by the email here at disabilityaccess@artscouncil.ie. So just wanted to put that stuff up front before we get into the guidelines, so that you know that help is available for you. And then additionally, if you have questions about the art form side of things, then please reach out to our team. You should all already have our team email. It's csps@artscouncil.ie. We'll have that at the end of the presentation again for you. But if you have specific questions about the art form side of things, we're there to help you with that. Okay, so again, before we go into the guidelines, I want to give you a little bit of a competitive context look, and we've an art form note as well about some changes for this year. In 2025, so for 2025 this year, there was one round of the project award that took place in 2024 for Circus and Street Performance and Spectacle. In previous years, there have been 2 rounds, but it's becoming increasingly competitive in recent years, and a lot of the teams have now moved, majority of the teams actually, have now moved to only doing 1 round of project award in the year. In saying that though, however, last year we had a 50% decrease in applications, which was a big surprise because we'd been having major increases in the years prior to that. So in 2025, we'd 16 applications requesting 678,000, which was a 50% decrease on 2024. We had, I think it was 35 applications for 2024. 9 applications were funded to the value of €385,000, which was 55% of applications. So last year, there was a 1 in 2 chance of actually being recommended for funding, and 55% of the requested amount was available to be offered. Now, in contrast, in 2024, which I would suggest you keep in mind as a more realistic expectation of the competitiveness of the program, especially because we've, I think, about 35-40 people registered for this clinic, and we often get applications from people who didn't come to the clinic. So we are expecting a higher volume this year, more in line with 2024, where it was 25% of applications were recommended, and it was a 1 in 4 chance. Okay, so our budget for 2026 is, aside from the additional Strand that we're adding, which I'll talk about in a moment, our budget pretty much remains the same. So we're probably going to be looking at a 25% success rate again. So just to keep that in mind, in many cases, it's simply just too competitive and we don't have enough funding to award to everyone who's worthy of receiving it. So you could have an excellent application, and due to how the panel process plays out, other applications are awarded it and yours is not. So just please do keep that in mind as a realistic possibility. So for 2026, there's the once-off addition of an additional 200k budget for the Street Performance and Spectacle Project Award, which we're going to be managing through a stranded approach. So it's once-off addition. It invites applications up to the value of 100,000 for high-quality, ambitious works of scale to be developed in partnership with local authorities and to be presented free of costs to audience in the public space. This is a once-off strand. It aligns with the goals of our Street Performance and Spectacle Policy, which was recently published, to support the development of ambitious new work within this area of the sector. Again, it's once off, but to support it, we're also allowing Arts Grants Funding 2026 recipients to be eligible to apply, which is normally not the case for the project award. So if you're in receipt of Arts Grants Funding 2026, you are eligible to apply for the Street Performance and Spectacle Project Award, not for the Circus Project Award, which remains the same as in previous years. Okay. So now the guidelines overview. We'll touch a little bit more on the Strand again, and we can talk about it more in the Q&A section. But what I'm going to do now is basically just go through the guidelines. I'm going to talk through them and read them out, but then also maybe add some additional comments here and there. But it's basically just the guidelines. And the most important thing that you can do is become familiar with the guidelines, read them carefully, follow the instructions in them, and it's kind of our guiding light in many ways. Once they're published, that's what we align to. Decisions all align to that. If for some reason there a decision later on is appealed, it all comes back to the guidelines. So it's the most important artifact in this journey from our perspective for you. The purpose of the project award is to support high quality standalone initiatives that specifically deliver a presentation to or an engagement with an audience or public. The closing date is 5:30 on Thursday, the 24th of July, 2025. I highly recommend that you give yourself a false closing date and do not leave submitting your application until the last day. There is often, and currently we are plagued with, IT challenges, so that there might be system crashes or issues like that. You may also get an error on uploading your application form. There are a variety of different challenges that might come up on that last day. We highly recommend that you try and complete your application earlier than that date. The maximum amount awarded for the Circus Project Award is 50,000, and for the Street Performance and Spectacle, Strand 1 is 50,000 and Strand 2 is 100,000. And this award is open to professional artists, individuals, companies, and organizations. Okay, we'll look at eligibility in a little later. And the funding decision for this program is made by a peer panel. So I don't make the funding decision. Adam doesn't make the funding decision. No staff of the Arts Council actually make the funding decision for this program. This is similar for some of our other programs like the Bursary Award. The final decision is made by a panel that is made up of peers from the sector. So this could be artists, producers, directors, programmers, various different people who are familiar with have a track record and experience in our sector, who also have no conflicts of interest for the particular round. To find the guidelines, if you haven't already found them, go to the Arts Council website, click on Apply for Funding, click on the Project Award, and then you'll find the Circus Project Award and the Street Performance and Spectacle Project Award, both which have different guidelines. There is a lot of crossover, and so you'll see in this presentation I'll be speaking to both of them majority of the time, but there are specific differences when it comes to the strategic priorities for each of the art forms, and of course the Strand element for the Street Performance and Spectacle Project Award. So the purpose and priorities of the Circus Project Award. The purpose of the award is to support high quality standalone initiatives that specifically deliver a presentation to or an engagement with an audience or public. Potential proposals could be those that allow circus artists and companies to engage in high quality collaborations with professionals such as dramaturgists, choreographers, producers, directors, set designers, and costume designers to develop work that is new to both the artists involved and to audiences. They could also enable artists to create work that changes their own concepts of current working practices, creating new high quality work for Irish audiences. They could also enable artists to create work that pushes the boundaries of circus practice in Ireland. Our strategic priorities for the Circus Project Award are to support projects that demonstrate excellent skill level in a variety of circus disciplines, and or demonstrate high quality cross-disciplinary collaborations. Okay, so we want to see a variety of circus disciplines being supported through our funding, and we really want to see excellence in skill as well. This is a big priority for us. But that's not to say that cross-disciplinary work, particularly in the contemporary side of circus, is often cross-disciplinary and integrates theatre elements, theatre directors, dramaturgy, choreography and dance, all of that great stuff. But if there are going to be those collaborations, it can't just be superficial. It can't be like, oh, I'm going to work with this dancer. we have to demonstrate that the dancer is excellent, that the plan of how you're going to work together is really, really high quality and thought through. So we really want those cross-disciplinary collaborations to also be of very high quality and demonstrate excellence. Other strategic priorities include projects that create opportunities to extend the life of the work by securing a broad range of performances within the finite parameters of the project. So we recognize that the amount, and we know that the limit of 50,000 of the budget for the Circus Project Award is very restrictive, particularly for ambitious work. And while this year we do have that additional strand in street performance and spectacle, that's a once-off thing. And we have a very restricted budget on our team. And to increase our bands overall would mean less projects are being supported. So we recognize that's a tricky situation to be in. And hopefully the Strand 2 and Street Performance and Spectacle will give us a really good argument for increasing our bands and increasing our budget overall as well. So we're constantly pushing and pulling it with the other art forms to try and make those cases. But what we would prioritize is as many performances as are feasible within the budgetary constraints, but also that potentially partnerships leading to future presentations might be developed as part of it, even though those presentations couldn't be funded within this limited amount. We do have other programs such as the Touring Award, however, that's incredibly competitive. We welcome Circus applications, and Circus and Street Performance and Spectacle applications are often funded through it, but it is a very, very very competitive award, and its success rates are quite low just because of that competitiveness. Okay, so other projects that could be prioritized are those that reflect a strong relationship or level of investment between the artist and a project partner, which could be a presentation partner like a festival or a venue or something along those lines. If there's a really strong relationship there, if they're demonstrating benefit in kind or even actual investment or match funding, that will lead to high quality production values for the work and a better artistic experience for the audiences. So that would be something that would be prioritized as well. And then projects that have the potential to be enjoyed widely in our communities, public spaces, real and virtual, and in dedicated venues and centres across the country, especially offering a meaningful access to and/or engagement with the arts, and that reach new and diverse audiences. And that particular point is across both of the programs and lines up with that people, place, and space policy, that spatial policy around bringing arts experiences to citizens all across Ireland in the real and virtual spaces. Okay, so for the Street Performance and Spectacle Project Award, a lot of it is similar, so I apologize if I'm repeating myself, but there are some notable differences as well. So the purpose of the Street Performance and Spectacle Project Award is to support high quality, standalone initiatives that specifically deliver a presentation to or an engagement with an audience or public in Ireland, in the Republic of Ireland. For art form definitions and to better understand the Arts Council's strategic goals for this sector, again, I'd recommend that you please check out the policy there, which is available on our website. Also to say, you're aware we're recording, but we'll also be sending this presentation deck around so that you're able to access the links and all of that good stuff after the clinic. Ciara will get it to you. So again, just reiterating the strands here, because this is a new approach for us. Strands are not a new approach in the project award in general. Many other art form areas have strands, but this is the first time that we have one in this team, and this is just for street performance and spectacle. So strand 1 is up to 50,000, and the objective of this strand is to support the production of high quality professional street performance and spectacle projects that are new to both the artists involved and to audiences, to be presented along with project partners such as festivals, art centres and local authorities. So this is our standard street performance and spectacle project award. Strand 2 then, this once-off edition, is open to artists and organizations with a demonstrable track record in delivering high quality, ambitious street performance and spectacle presentations to audiences, okay? So you must have a track record of delivering really, really good work in this space. And then this strand invites applications for the production and presentation of large scale street performance and spectacle productions that are ambitious, of high quality, and will be presented free of cost to the public in the public space in partnership with local authorities. And just to add a note on that partnership with local authorities, that can be any level of commitment, okay? So you would be eligible if you very simply just had a letter from your local authority stating that they were aware this was happening and they would support you however they could. Versus you could have a local authority who's willing to offer you up to 100,000 to match the funding of it and to say, we really want this to happen and we're actually going to invest in it also. So when we say in partnership with local authorities, that's a pretty broad spectrum, okay? So you could just literally have a single letter of support saying, we're aware this happens and this is going to happen on the street in our local area and we support it in principle. That alone would be enough. Or you could have a much more a much deeper level of commitment from the local authority. Like they're saying, we'll support this, with marketing, with advertising, and we're actually going to match funding, right? There's a variety of different shapes that partnership could take. But for this large scale one, we're another commitment of our street performance and spectacle policy is to nurture relationships between spectacle and street performance companies and local authorities, because out in the public space on the streets is where this work happens. And even if applications are unsuccessful, it starts to build these relationships. And we've been working a lot with local authorities and sharing the information about this policy and this type of work, and we're seeing a big increase in support for it, but also in the presentation of really good work in communities. And then the value of that is really clear with the audiences who are engaging with it. So that's where all of this is coming from, and just so you have a deep understanding of why we're doing this and what shape that could take. Hopefully this is making things clearer and not confusing you further. We'll see when the Q&A comes. Okay, so the Street Performance and Spectacle Project Award, the purpose of the award, potential proposals could be those that allow artists and companies within these art forms to work with dramaturgists, choreographers, producers, directors, costume designers to develop work that is new to both the artists involved and to audiences. And they could also involve original artistic ideas, enabling artists to engage with new or experimental collaborative partnerships, leading to high quality, accessible public performance. Our strategic priorities for street performance and spectacle are to support projects that create opportunities for increased engagement in the arts by communities and promote good practice in audience development and public engagement. We'll have another slide later on with some links to tools and things around developing your audience development and public engagement sides of your application. You will need to submit a supporting document that covers this. We'll see that in a minute. We'll also prioritize projects that demonstrate the capacity to deliver ambitious work of high public impact and visibility. And this applies across both of the strands. Projects that reflect a strong relationship or level of investment between the artist, company, and the project partner, leading to high quality production values. So that is kind of around that scale of support from partners, right? You can just have a letter that says, yeah, we support this in principle, or you could have, oh, we're going to give them space to make the work, we're going to match the funding if it's successful, etc. There's a spectrum of levels of investment and relationships and support with those presentation or project partners. Projects that present innovative artistic creations through high quality cross-disciplinary collaboration. So we see in spectacle and street performance, it is quite a multidisciplinary practice, right? Whether you're doing ensemble, parade, or processional work, there's often dramaturgy, there's often theater, there's often dance, costume development. If you're doing a smaller scale or maybe not smaller scale, but a street performance show that's maybe in the round and you're going to present it in the public space, that could actually be a dance show, that could be a circus show, that could be comedy, it could be puppetry, but you're applying to create a street performance show. It could also be a walkabout show, but we know that it's multidisciplinary in its practice. We talk about that a bit in the policy as well. Projects that have the potential to be enjoyed widely in our communities, public spaces, real and virtual, and in dedicated venues and centres across the country. Again, this is aligning with our spatial people, place, and space policy. Okay, so now I'm going to be talking about both programs together because all of this is mostly the same for all of them. So who can apply? The award is open to professional artists and organisations working in the areas of circus or street performance and spectacle. The Arts Council defines a professional artist as an individual who identifies themselves and is recognised by their peers as a practising professional artist. The applicant does not have to make their living exclusively through their arts practice. To be eligible to apply, applicants must be resident in the Republic of Ireland. However, we may accept applications from outside the Republic of Ireland. In this case, you must detail in your application form how your proposal would benefit the arts in the Republic of Ireland, and we would need to be satisfied with your explanation. If not, we would be making it ineligible. Particularly in the case of the project award, it's for the development of work for Irish audiences, Republic of Ireland audiences. Okay, so you could be a company based foreign, maybe you're a French or a German spectacle company, and you want to partner with an Irish festival to make a new piece of work for Irish audiences, bringing your expertise in a large scale spectacle work from Europe. That would work. So we just need to it needs to all be related back, but we can't fund you as a French or German company to create spectacle work to present in France or Germany, for example. But we know every project and context is different. And we also know that in our sector, it's a very international sector. Circus artists are always moving internationally, and spectacle and street performance companies are always touring festivals and things. So it's on a case-by-case basis. All documentation, this is an important one to note at this point because you'll be writing your application and everything. All documentation provided must be in the name of the applicant. So if you apply to the Arts Council for funding under the name Maura de Barra, then all documentation, including your bank and tax details, must be in that name. Right? Variations such as Mary Barry or Barry Studios are not acceptable. So if you're writing an application now or you're creating an account under a certain name, that name should line up with your registered tax name and with your bank accounts and things like that, or that's going to cause you problems when you're successful later on. Any grant offered will only be paid into a bank account held in the name of the applicant. Okay, so just keeping you aware of those things early on. Who cannot apply? So applicants who are not eligible to apply include the following: organisations that are currently in receipt of funding through the following programmes: strategic funding, arts centre funding, partnership funding, though the involvement of these organisations as partners is very welcome. So, if you wanted to support or offer space or be there for mentorship through the development of one of these projects, that's welcome, but cannot be the lead applicant. So then there's the slight difference between the programs is for the Circus Project Award only, organizations or individuals in receipt of, that should read 2026, in receipt of 2026 arts grant funding are not eligible to apply. However, Arts Grants Funding 2026 recipients can apply for the Street Performance and Spectacle Project Award. And that's, again, in line with the Strand 2 element to support the creation of new, ambitious, large-scale street performance and spectacle work, which some Arts Grants Funding recipients would be in the business of making. And Arts Grants Funding is an insanely, it's the most competitive program I think that we have. Very, very low success rates, and we're never able to fully fund the ambitious projects that are coming through in that program. So this is all just a little part to try and help that. It's only a small gesture in the context of some of the budgets, and we recognize making spectacle and making large scale work is very expensive, especially when we consider the huge impact that it has on audiences. It's a small gesture that we're making this year to try and support it, but hopefully it builds a case for better investment in future years. Individuals who work on an ongoing basis with organizations funded through any of the above programs are not eligible to apply. But what this looks like is this refers to individuals who are full-time employees or full-time contractors with these organizations. National cultural institutions directly funded by the department are not eligible to apply also. Individuals or organizations that do not have a demonstrable track record or as professional artists or organizations. You must demonstrate that you've delivered work of the scale that you're applying for in the past or close to. It must be feasible for a panel or for our assessor, or for myself, for any of us to look at the application and go, if we invest 50,000 of public money into this project, will it happen? Will it be a success? Will it be a positive arts experience for audiences? Those things are going to be taken into account in your application, so you need to be able to demonstrate them. Any individuals currently in undergraduate education are not eligible to apply, or if you will be during the period which this award is offered. The reason for this is because if you are in undergraduate education, you're being subsidized for this by the government. So for us to fund you to do parallel work would be considered double funding, which is generally a no-no in public funding. Any individuals seeking support towards fees for postgraduate or higher education is not eligible. Also, please note, you cannot apply for the award both as an individual and as part of an organization. Like, you cannot apply as an artistic director of a company and also separately under your own name. What you may apply for: up to 50,000 in the Circus Project Award, up to 50,000 in the Street Performance and Spectacle Strand 1, up to 100,000 in Strand 2 in the Street Performance and Spectacle Project Award. You're required to submit a detailed budget listing all items of income and expenditure relating to your proposed project. The maximum amount you may request is the difference between the proposed expenditure and the proposed income you indicate in the budget. Proposed expenditure should include all fees, wages, technical costs, promotional publicity costs, administrative costs, etc. And proposed income should include what you expect to receive from other funders, box office receipts if applicable, which are often not applicable in Street Performance and Spectacle, we recognise that, program sales, etc. It's also really important to reflect all in-kind support in both income and expenditure, so reflecting the full and true value of your proposal. So if you have a project partner who's giving you free rehearsal space, make sure you're documenting the value of that in your project. It adds to the feasibility. It makes a stronger case for your project. You're asked to indicate income, expenditure, and the amount requested at 3 stages during the application. On the detailed budget that you'll submit as part of your supporting material, online when you start the application. So when you go online into the online portal to start the application, it'll ask you for the income and expenditure totals. So it's just the totals on that particular screen. And then in section 3 of the application form, so detailed budget on the portal when you're starting your application, and then section 3 of the application form. Make sure that the totals on all 3 of those match. Okay, otherwise your application will be made ineligible. Okay, so disability access costs. We are committed to making our funding schemes and the work we fund accessible to everyone. This is in line with our equality, diversity, and inclusion policy and implementation plan. To meet this goal, we offer financial supports to remove barriers for artists and participants with disabilities. These are known as disability access costs or access costs. If you see access costs anywhere, we're not talking about get in and get out fees. We're talking about disability access costs, okay? We take the description of disability from the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, together with Irish legislation and case law. We broadly include all people with disabilities. For example, people with physical, medical, cognitive, intellectual learning, emotional, or sensory impairments. There are 2 types of disability access costs that you may need to consider for your application: personal disability access costs and audience disability access costs. The Arts Council provides separate funding for personal disability access costs on top of your requested amount for your project. For audience disability access costs, if you're prioritizing that or making that a core part of your application, you must account for those costs within your core budget, okay? So you can apply for additional personal access costs, but audience access costs must be outlined within your core budget. Personal disability costs, these supports should help you to remove barriers for artists or participants with disabilities who are delivering your proposal, okay? So this could apply for yourself, the main artists, individuals, groups, or organizations involved in your proposal, partners or collaborators, production staff, core staff, or key administrative personnel. And examples of these types of supports are not limited to, but here's some examples: an Irish Sign Language Interpreter, ISL, International Sign Language Interpreter, for a participant or participants, services of an access support worker, if needed, additional rehearsal or studio time, okay? So they're examples, but not limited to. You can apply for these participant and personal disability access costs in addition to the maximum amount available. So you could apply for 50,000 for the Circus Project Award, and you might request another 3,000 to actually support you with participant or artist access costs in addition. Audience disability access costs. These are costs for making your work accessible to persons with disabilities. We want to ensure that more people enjoy high quality arts experiences and that everyone can access and enjoy the work we fund. Access for disabled audience members should be considered a normal part of your work. We don't have additional budgets, unfortunately, to fund audience access. However, inclusion of these elements in an application would be scored in a favorable way. Example of supports to make your work accessible may be having an ISL interpreter for your event or performance, using an audio description service, making your website compatible with screen readers, producing exhibition materials in other formats such as Braille or audio. The Arts Council does not currently provide additional funding for these costs, and these need to be included in your core budget. And just remember, some of these examples will be related to other art forms as well. So I don't know, for street performance and spectacle, we might be looking at designated viewing areas and ramps and things like that to give people of all sorts of physical needs access to view work. Okay, so how to apply for access costs. If you include disability access costs in your proposal, you must upload a document listing these costs with your supporting material. An optional template is available on the templates and guidelines section of the project award page on the website. You must also show the costs in 2 separate lines in the application form: a line for any personal disability access costs which you're requesting, and then pull out any audience disability access costs from your main budget to highlight those as well. Whether you use your own document or the template, the 2 types of disability access costs must be shown separately. What may you not apply for? You may not apply for more than 1 project type award in any art form or arts practice area in any 1 round of funding. So you cannot apply for 2 Circus Project Awards. You cannot apply for the Circus Project Award and the Street Performance and Spectacle Project Award. You cannot apply for Circus and then go and apply for dance. You can only apply to 1 project award within a single round, okay? You cannot apply for major capital purchases. This is buildings or vehicles or anything along those lines. Ongoing core costs for your organization, can't apply for those. Can only apply for activities activities and costs that relate to the production of this piece of work. You cannot apply for activities or costs that do not fit the purpose of this award. You cannot apply for activities that are more suited to another award funded by the Arts Council or operated by other state agencies such as Culture Ireland or Screen Ireland. Activities that have already taken place or which will have commenced before the 1st of January, that should read 2026, apologies, there's a typo there, or activities that have already taken place or which have commenced before the 1st of January 2026. In terms of activities that are more suited to another award, if you've already created a show and you now want to bring that to new audiences, that would be under the touring award. That wouldn't apply under the project award. The project award is for the creation of new work to be presented to audiences and usually includes 1 or 2 showings of the new work, because it's within the finite parameters of the 50K or whatever it might be. If you're applying to develop your skills as an individual artist, that should go under the bursary award for example. So this is for the creation of new work for audiences. You may not apply for activities undertaken for charity fundraising purposes, participation in a competition, or for primarily profit-making purposes. Okay, this is for the creation of arts experiences for audiences, not primarily for profit-making purposes. Activities that have already been assessed by the Arts Council, you can't apply for these unless you demonstrate that you've substantively developed the proposal since previously applying, or if our team has specifically advised you to redirect your application to this award. And in the latter case, this is not an indication of a successful outcome. It's simply redirecting maybe an application that's already been assessed into a more suitable place. Projects that solely involve the touring of existing productions are ineligible for the project award, and projects that are not centered on the creation of new artistic work to be presented to an audience or public are not eligible, and you can't apply for those. Okay, so moving on now to supporting material. Supporting material means material that is separate from and additional to your application form. This helps the people assessing your application to have a clearer understanding of your proposal. So you fill in the application form, you give high-level description, you list all of your collaborators, you put in your dates, you put in your basic budget information in there, and then you need additional supporting material that fleshes out the application, really tells the story of what it is you're applying for, demonstrates the audience planning that you've done and who you're making the work for, and demonstrates all of your project partners. So in order to be considered eligible, you must submit the following material. You must have up-to-date CVs or biographies for each of the key artists involved in the project, okay? This can be a multi-page CV, maybe if it's, you know, the core collaborators or the director or something, but it could also be a biography, which can be a paragraph, right? So make it appropriate to the level of involvement that the collaborator has in the project. If you're working with a couple of key artists, you really want to be able to demonstrate the excellence of those artists. If you're bringing in like a videographer or something, you can just put in a paragraph about their work. But if you're requesting in your budget funding for someone who is in the project, you should probably have you should definitely have some information about them, but maybe not need to be a full CV. I'm just that came up in one of our questions that was submitted, and I'll touch on it again later on. But you must have either up-to-date CVs or biographies for each of the key artists and collaborators working on your project. You must have a detailed budget separate from and in addition to the budget information within the application form. And this should set out all of your individual costs, any projected income associated with the project. This must include proposed rates of pay for all personnel involved. Rates of pay should be realistic and commensurate with the practitioner's level of professional experience. We also recommend that you have a look at our paying the artist policy as well. Letters and emails of support and/or copies of memorandums of understanding outlining details of collaborations and/or confirming any commitments of income, either in cash or in kind, towards the proposal. Okay, if you're working with an arts center, if you're working with a festival, if you're working with a local authority, you can't just say that you're working with them. We need evidence that shows that they are working with you knowingly, okay? And also if you're saying that you're getting investment in kind in terms of rehearsal space, or you're being given match funding by a local authority, we need to see that evidenced in a letter of support as well. We also recommend including imagery and video clips that show examples of recent work. You must have some level of this in there or it'll be ineligible. We need to be able to demonstrate to the assessment team and to all of the panelists the type of work that you've delivered in the past, the quality of that work, and that will then lead to better feasibility scores for the work that you're proposing and for this application. It also contributes obviously to scores around artistic quality and artistic merit. In the case where the project proposal has a public outcome, which is every application that we'll receive. So every application that we receive in Circus and Street Performance and Spectacle has a public outcome, okay? This is phrased this way to support some of the other art forms where things might be slightly different. You must include either a marketing plan, a dissemination plan, or an audience engagement plan, okay? They could be the same thing, or it could just be one or the other. It depends what it is you're planning to do. We need to see that you're considering how you're going to sell tickets for this show, if it's a paid ticketed show. We need to see how you're going to advertise it to audiences. We need to see, have you thought about who is this show for? Who is the audience that you're asking for funding to produce work for? We've put some links here to support with this. So on our website, we have a section with some toolkits around public engagement. And then on the ISACs, the Irish Street Art Circus and Spectacle Network website, they have a really brilliant audience-aware street arts handbook. So we know in street performance and spectacle, your audience planning, audience tracking is going to be different if you're in a ticketed show where you have seats and bums on seats and you have a ticket for each individual. So just this required document, the marketing, dissemination, or engagement plan, should really be demonstrating. It can be a one pager. It doesn't have to be multiple pages. Some people make it more robust. It depends on the work you're doing. And particularly for Strand 2 of the Street Performance and Spectacle Project Award, where we're going to be investing up to 100,000 into a project, we're really going to want to see that these are quite robust. So in order to assess the volume of applications that we typically receive, we cannot review any supporting material other than those listed above there, okay? Also, we recommend putting all of your supporting material together into one master document with a really clear table of contents. That's going to kind of be a dossier that will tell the story of the project that you're proposing, your team, your supporters, your partners, and your track record and the work that you've presented in the past. And this can be a very basic Word document saved as a PDF, or it could be visual and full of imagery and design. It's up to you how you present that, but you must have all of these different pieces or you'll be made ineligible. You can upload them all individually, and we recommend being very clean and tidy with your file names if you're doing that, or you can put them all together into one PDF. We often have, because of our IT system, we often have panelists request that we do put them as a single PDF, but we understand there might be reasons you might want to put them separately. So if you want to discuss this with our team, you can. But what's really important is that the supporting material makes sense together. It demonstrates the concept, the idea, what you're working on, who you're working with, who your project partners are, your budget is there, and that you have your supporting material and your audience and dissemination plan, that all of that is very clear, and together assessors and panelists should have a look at that and go, this is an excellent proposal. We really must fund this. We must invest public money in this. Because there's large amounts of public money being invested through this program, and all of this is taken very seriously. Okay, additional material is required in certain circumstances. If you're seeking additional access costs, which we already covered, you need to have an additional document covering that. And there's templates available on the document on the website. If you are working with animals, which we do see in Circus, you must provide a copy of your animal welfare protection policies and procedures. In Ireland, it is illegal to work with wild or exotic animals, so domestic animals are allowed. We often see horse, dog, cat, bird acts, for example. If we recommend that you have a look on our Circus page. We have a framework for the involvement of animals in the arts. So please review all of that. If you are applying and your application involves children and young people under the age of 18, you must have child protection policies and procedures in place and be able to demonstrate that clearly. And if you're working for applications involving vulnerable adults, you must indicate this in section 1 of the application form, and also be able to demonstrate that you've familiarized yourself with and adhere to the national policy and procedures on safeguarding vulnerable persons at risk of abuse. If you do not submit all required supporting material, your application will be deemed ineligible. So there is a checklist in the application form as well, but you can also use these slides and the guidelines. This is all just taken from the guidelines. So you can use the guidelines just to make sure that you have everything there. Okay. In terms of eligibility, your application will be deemed ineligible and will not go any further in the process if any of the following are true. You miss the deadline. You do not submit a completed application form through the online services portal. You fail to complete all of the sections in the application form relevant to your proposal. You cannot apply as set out in sections 1.2 to 1.4. So in the who can and can't apply, which we've already covered. You apply for an amount of funding greater than the maximum amount allowed for within the award to which you're applying. Okay. So for Circus and for Street Performance and Spectacle Strand 1, you cannot apply for more than 50,000. And in Strand 2, Street Performance and Spectacle, you cannot apply for more than 100,000. This obviously doesn't include personal access costs, which can be applied for in addition to your total amount. If you apply for an activity or purpose that you cannot apply for, which we've already covered, and if you fail to provide all the mandatory supporting materials, which we just covered, or if your application is better suited to another funding program offered by the Arts Council or another funding agency. Okay, so that's kind of the heavy stuff about how to, what to put in your application, how to frame your application. I'm just going to talk through now, and we're on the home stretch. I'm just going to talk through now the assessment and decision process and what is considered in that and what happens within that process. So our applications are assessed within a competitive context. You saw on the earlier slide. Last year, we had a 50% success rate, but the year before it was 25%. And that was based on the amount of applications that we get in a given year. And I would suggest that you consider 25% the more realistic one. There are a number of factors contributing to last year's numbers, but previous to that, it had been growing and growing and growing. And we've also seen our most recent round of the bursary award. We only did one round this year. We had the highest amount of applications that we'd ever received to a single program. So it is growing. And we think last year was an anomaly. So we just want to set that expectation for you. So competitive context, and then we'll consider the application in light of these kind of three areas. The artistic merit. The artistic merit focuses on the applicant and on those involved in the project, as well as on the nature of the proposed activity, and includes consideration of the quality of the idea and the proposed activity, the track record of the applicants and the artistic personnel as evidenced in their CVs and other supporting material, videos, etc., the potential of the applicant and the artistic personnel as evidenced in the application form. And while you do have to have a track record, we're asking people to apply for ambitious work. So, the potential also applies there as well as the track record. The art form, arts practice context in which the activity is proposed, the ambition, originality, and competency demonstrated in the proposal, and how the application demonstrates innovation, experimentation, and collaboration. So that's why we have panelists from the sector, people who are aware of what work is happening or has happened in the past, what work is happening internationally and not happening here. All of those kind of things will be taken into consideration. Because it's a competitive program, these are the mechanisms we use to make those decisions. When not everyone who is worthy of being funded can be recommended. We also then consider applications in terms of how they meet the objectives and priorities of the award, which we covered earlier on. So, for example, in Circus, we're prioritizing excellence in circus skill in a variety of disciplines, for example. So they're the kind of elements that will be taken into consideration when making decisions. The assessment of feasibility, I've mentioned it a couple of times throughout the presentation, but it considers the extent to which the applicant demonstrates the capacity to deliver the proposed activity. If we invest 50,000 or 100,000 of public money into this company or artist or into this project, is it going to be delivered to the quality that's being proposed? Is it going to be a high quality, high value arts experience for audiences, etc.? All of those considerations. So we look at the track record of the personnel involved in managing, producing, administering, delivering the project, the extent to which the applicant demonstrates the provision of equitable conditions and remuneration for participating artists. So Are people being paid in line with their experience? Okay, we don't set rates as a government body. We can't, or as a government agency supporting the arts, we can't set rates when it comes to commercial ventures and things like that. It's not our role. But we would expect to see that artists are being fairly paid or even being competitively paid for their work. But if we notice that certain people are being paid really, really highly and others are being paid really, really low, that starts to raise questions as well for panelists, and all of that is kind of looked at under feasibility. If in the past, for example, you might have gotten feedback that maybe there were concerns around the feasibility, it could be any one of these types of elements that come into it. The extent of involvement or commitment of identified project partners. I mentioned kind of this before. So you could have a support letter from a local authority saying, we know this is happening and we're okay with it, versus you could have a support letter from a project partner like a venue or festival or a local authority saying, oh, we know this is happening and we really want to support it. We're going to match fund it, or we're going to give benefit in kind of rehearsal space. So the extent of involvement or commitment of the project partners. We'll review the budget in detail. Other sources of income into the project always give a better feasibility score if we can see it's being supported from various sources. The availability of and access to other resources, I just mentioned there, and the proposed timetable or schedule. Think carefully about that as well, because if it looks like, oh wait, why are they trying to get everything done in one day here, or why, all of that kind of stuff does come into play. Our assessment process then, once you submit your application, which hopefully will be, a couple of days before the deadline, not on the deadline, we'll receive the applications. Then our operations team do an initial eligibility check. They make sure things like you haven't applied for multiple programs and all of that kind of stuff. And then it's sent to our team, and our advisor and our team will review the content on a high level to check for eligibility. Have you applied to the right program? Should you be applying under children and young people's arts, for example? And if we're going to move you to another art form, we'll have a conversation with you about that first. But that's kind of the initial eligibility phase that we do. At that stage, you may be informed that you're ineligible for some reason, whether it's missing supporting material or something along those lines. We'll then complete a shortlisting process, and our team very much errs on the side of shortlisting. So if at all possible, we will shortlist your application for panel, unless there's a very, very clear rationale for why it wasn't shortlisted. So that sometimes means people request feedback from their project award or bursary, and their assessment is really, really positive. And that's because it was shortlisted for panel. But it was simply that when it got to panel, there wasn't enough funding, and there never is enough funding to award every application that is worthy of being funded. Then decisions are communicated in writing to applicants. The length of time it'll take us to make the decisions depends on how many applications we get, and not just in this art form, in other art forms as well, because decisions are sent for all the art forms at the same time. So we've had huge increases across various art forms. So unfortunately, we have 12 to 15 weeks is what we state, but it may be longer than that to make the decision. But we work very hard to try and get it out to you as soon as we can. Okay, so in terms of the peer panel, I mentioned it a little bit before, but just to really kind of share more information on it, the peer panels are made up of artists and sector professionals, and they make key funding decisions for programs such as the bursary and the project award, as well as other programs that we run across the organization. They assist in maintaining standards of quality and ensuring transparency in the process. So we've got members of the public and members of the sector coming in and making the decisions and seeing the processes in place. They use their expertise and knowledge to assess, score, and make decisions in line with the published criteria. So everything that we've just covered here, all of that will help guide the panelists' decisions. If you want to see who peer panelists have been for previous funding programs, you can see that on the Who We Funded area of the Arts Council website. Also, you can also see on the Who We Funded area applications that were previously successful in the project award. So you might want to go and have a look at that, and then maybe have a look at their online content and see, oh, what was supported, or how do they present themselves, or even if you know them or you don't know them, you could have a conversation with them about your own project. For more information on the peer panels, please go to our website. where there's a bit more information on it as well. There's also work ongoing at the moment. So every few years we rejuvenate the peer panel list, and there's work ongoing at the moment around that. So keep an eye out. There may be call outs if you want to nominate somebody or be nominated for being a peer panelist. I highly recommend it, actually, because it gives you such a unique perspective into how the decisions are made. I know it can often seem like we're throwing all these guidelines at you. You drop in your application, it feels like it's gone into a black hole, and then like 4 months later, 3 months later, you hear you got it or you didn't get it. And actually, there's a lot of mechanisms at work in the meantime there, and sitting on a panel really gives you a good perspective into how decisions are made and the transparency of the process. So yeah, if you want to, if you can reach out and let our team know, CSPS@artscouncil.ie. If you're interested in being a panel, we'll start a provisional list on the team for when they do the proper panel recruitment process. How to apply in general guidance. So how to make your application. Register on our Arts Council's online services page. Okay, so if you go to artscouncil.ie/funding, you'll see this apply for funding and a big button saying visit our funding portal. I recommend, if you are not already registered on that, to do that right now, right after this clinic. I actually wouldn't mind if you went and did it while I'm still talking. Just go and register, because it can take up to 5 days to approve your registration. Okay, so just make sure you do that now, because you really do not want to be doing that on the last week or the last couple of days, or God forbid on the Thursday of the application. And we do have this happening, and then people aren't able to submit their applications. So just make sure you register and you're on our online services system is the very first thing that you do. How to make your application. You'll need to use a computer or laptop. Our online services does not work on phones or tablets. You also, and I know we know this is a big frustration for people, particularly Mac users, you'll need to have an Microsoft Word or a very specific version of OpenOffice installed. And there's information about this on the application forms and in the help content that I shared earlier. So it is problematic for people, we know that, and we are really trying to get a new system in place, but that isn't going to happen before this program is closed, certainly. So the application form is formatted in such a way that we extract information from the form. So it's very important that you type inside the gray boxes and that you don't delete them or type outside of them. If you do this, you'll probably get an error on uploading. The form won't upload properly and your application might be corrupted. So please see section before you apply in the guidelines document if you haven't applied before, because it's not straightforward. It's a bit tricky. I want to make sure that you have time to deal with any issues or to contact support if you need to with any of that. There are acceptable file types. In the past, we were a bit more restrictive on it, but you can see all of these in the guidelines as well. But you can submit URL links, so you can put in a document, or if you're doing a big combined PDF, you can have a page that has links to YouTube, to Vimeo, to all of those kind of places, so that you can share your previous work. And standalone supporting materials such as CVs, etc. According to the guidelines, they must be uploaded as separate documents with your application form. Our team, we're telling you in the clinic, we're okay if it's all combined into one PDF. Okay, so there is conflicting information there. So you can either upload each piece of supporting material clearly named as an individual document, or you can combine them into one PDF dossier and then upload that. Okay. General advice. Your application should clearly outline the project you'd like to create, how you're going to do it, who your collaborators and delivery partners are, and the value it will have for Irish audiences. Do not assume that the assessors, the team, or the panelists know your work or have any idea who you are. Treat each application as if it was your first. Several people will be involved in making a decision, so be really clear and concise. Make sure it's clear why you are doing this, why you're working with the people you're working with. Try not to slip into imitating Arts Council language and jargon, because you'll lose your individual voice. Okay, so don't try and repeat and parrot back to us kind of language that we've used. Take in our policies, the Street Performance and Spectacle policy, have a look on our website, take in some of that information and then allow it to percolate into how you write about your work. But we want to hear your voice. Okay. You don't have to write it in a certain way. There's no kind of mystery, there's no key to it. You don't need to use a fluffy artistic voice. Speak about your work in the way that you speak about your work. Always relate your proposal back to the priorities and objectives. Okay. So take in the policies, take in the guidelines, the strategic priorities, think about how you're going to talk about your work, and then look back at the project, at the priorities and objectives before you submit, and make sure that it is kind of lining up with those, because that will help your application. And then have someone read through it before you submit it. It might seem like a simple step. They don't have to be an artist, just anyone around you. Just have them read through in case they spot any typos or things like that. I've seen a few in my presentation today. It happens every single time. So just give yourself that little bit of extra time to make sure that you're happy with it. Common mistakes: not reading the guidelines. Not registering an OLS in time if you're a first-time user, so go and do that right now. Leaving it too late and missing the deadline. The window's open right now. You've until the 25th, so you've a couple of weeks. Give yourself lots and lots of time. Not uploading all the required supporting material. Reading an older set of guidelines. So as well, because we have a new website at the moment, if you search things on Google, you're getting old links. So make sure to go through the website, go through the artscouncil.ie homepage, go to funding, follow that trail to make sure you're getting the brand new guidelines there. Not relating the application to the objectives and priorities of the program. Okay, we are strategically trying to support certain things, and that's come from our policy work. So make sure you're relating your application back to that to give it as best chance as you can. And then one thing that you've already done is attending the art form clinic. So hopefully that sets you up with a little bit more information, a little bit more confidence in how you're going to approach it, and also sets your expectations that it's a very competitive program. Okay.
So sorry, again, Laura, just one correction there. The deadline is the 24th of July.
24th, not the 25th. Thanks, Kira. Appreciate it. 24th of July, Thursday. It's always a Thursday. So Thursday, the 24th of July. Thank you, Kira. Again, if you need help, there are some links. These are available in the guidelines as well. Please watch the available videos in advance while you're having your cup of tea or your lunch or whatever. Just there's never too much knowledge when it comes to this, particularly when it comes to some of the technical challenges that people tend to have. We want to try and minimize those so that we're able to ensure you get your application in, that you're kept eligible, all of that kind of stuff. And again, if you need access supports, and this is open to people with neurodiversity, people with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, people on the spectrum, people who have dyscalculia or dyslexia challenges, please, if you feel overwhelmed or want any kind of help in organizing how to apply for your application, they can't help you with the contents, but they can help you with applying. Please reach out to the access officer as soon as possible. Again, if you feel that's something you'd like to engage with, I recommend doing it today. And they'll set up a call with you and see how they can help you through. Our team is the Circus Street Performance and Spectacle team. Again, that's myself, Laura, I'm the head of team. Kira is our officer. Adam O'Keefe is our advisor. If you'd like to reach out to us, you can do so via the email there on screen. And in particular, we can't really talk about the contents of your application, but we can talk about the art form priorities, or if you're unsure what art form you want to apply for, or if there's any other questions that the technical support and access support team can't help you with. And again, thank you so much for your time. I know it's been a bit long and there's a lot of information in there, but we will be recording. The session is being recorded. We'll put it online. We'll send you the link to it so you can watch it back in your own time if you need to, or double check anything. Again, the guidelines are gospel. Okay, so there may be slight text differences in this presentation or something like that to the guidelines. The guidelines really are gospel. If you have anything you're uncertain of. And I have a couple of questions that were submitted before the call that I'm just going to talk through. And Kira, you can let me know then if there's any additional ones as well.